look at some books, I have a bunch of different field guides. This is one I really recommend if you're going to buy one and you haven't bought one. Plants of the Rocky Mountains. There's also another new one, and I haven't bought it yet. I heard it just was released from the University of Idaho, well, 2 years ago, but I haven't bought it yet. It's called Idaho Range Plants, and I have a little flyer on it, and a website at the bottom here that you can copy down if you're interested in buying it. I'm not sure what that price is, but University of Idaho just finished it. I haven't looked at it yet, but from a couple people I heard it was really good.
What's the name of it?
Idaho Range Plants.
Idaho Range Plants.
Yeah, it's a backpacker's guide to Idaho Range Plants.
And it is good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you buy it?
Yeah.
I haven't bought it yet. I was trying to get this park to buy it, and I didn't have money. So.
Well, that's not good.
Field guides. There are all kinds of field guides. There's books like this that you probably don't want to take out in the field. What I call this is a coffee table book. It does have absolutely gorgeous, fantastic photographs and information about plants, but taking it out in the field is not what you want to take. And then we'll explain, what I'm going to talk about today is going to explain how to use one of these. And this is basically the flora and plants of the Pacific Northwest. And this is how many were in my tree class? Went on my tree class? We went on my tree walk. That was a really easy dichotomous key. This is a dichotomous key of every single plant in the Pacific Northwest, just about. I don't think they missed very many, but it looks absolutely horrid at first, but you have to realize this is just a reference. You don't read it. It's not something you read. It's something you use, and you have to know how to use a dichotomous key and know where to go from. Oh, yeah, I know that. Where to go, like that simple one we had for plants, I mean for trees, you have to know which family you want to go to, where you want to start, and that's what I'm going to kind of explain today, how that's set up. And then we're going to go out and we're going to go in the park and try to key out some flowers that are out there. I do have 3 different field guides. This one is just plants of northern Idaho, and this is how to know fall flowers. Now this is figuring out flowers by their seed pods. Whoa. Interesting. There's all kinds of specialty books out there, poisonous plants. One's on just sedges, like sedges of Wyoming, which is just the grasses and stuff like that. There's plants on just berries, there's keys on just trees, and then you get into wildflowers. And we're going to end up in wildflowers today, but there's all kinds of specialty books, like just on weeds, just on things you're going to find in the sagebrush. Here's an old copy of the Rocky Mountain Field Guide. That was the precursor to this one. Then there's one just on alpine wildflowers, wayside wildflowers, prairie flowers. Believe it or not, sometimes you have a field guide like this or like this, and you can't find the flowers, so you have to go to these specialty books to really find them if you're trying to key something out. You can key it out of here, but if you really want to see a colored photograph and see if you really have the plant that you have, you're going to have to find something that has it. This one, I'll show you why you would think Audubon would be the best guide, and I'll tell you why. Audubon is okay for beginners. It divides up all the flowers by color. And if you have a flower right in front of you and the right colors, you can find a picture of it, but it doesn't have everything in it. And this is for all of the West. So you know that there's more wildflowers than, there's 2 pictures per page, that many pages. That's not enough. So you still have to be able to go back to the key back here, but it refers to the key by the picture. So sometimes you'll find a flower and it'll be similar, but it'll be a different color. And then you can go back there and see if it comes in other color phases. So it works for a beginner book, but when you want to get into more specifics, this by far is
Does
a
the
better book.
key at least take you to names of plants that aren't pictured?
This one?
Yeah, no, the Audubon one.
In here, it will tell you whether that plant, what it'll tell you is like, the plant you look at that looks similar, it'll tell you other similar plants and their ranges. So it may be that that plant is yellow down in Arizona, but it's white up here, but in a little different species. Well, let's see, yeah, species. It'll be the same genus. It may be this and same family, genus. Sometimes it's just the same family. Sometimes it's the same family and genus, and then you go down to species. Or sometimes we'll go into variety. We'll get to that. We didn't get to do naming of names, which is basically the scientific naming of everything. So we just didn't get to have time to do that one because I was gone and we did other things instead. So sometime, if you guys want, go through naming of names in the book. There's a chapter called Naming of Names. We'll get you a little bit on the scientific key, and next year when you come back, we'll try to make sure we do that class. So we'll get started here. Why is the plant kingdom important? If you look on your handouts, the one that starts out with plant classification, we're going to talk about that one first. Why are plants important to us? Anybody have an idea?
Give us oxygen.
We need oxygen. Do you know that we are the only planet that we know of that has plants on it? We're the only planet we know of that has human life on it. so we kind of are tied together. So plants is very special to the Earth. If we didn't have plants, there probably wouldn't be oxygen in the atmosphere, and there probably wouldn't be plants. There probably wouldn't be animals and humans on Earth. So plants are very important. What else do they give us?
Food.
Food. Oxygen and food, that's pretty important. Okay, so those are, and basically, you know, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you're eating plants all the time. Now, some of us eat animals that eat plants, but we couldn't eat those animals either if they didn't eat plants first, so they wouldn't be here. So we're going to talk about the key and the whole kingdom of plants. It's its own kingdom. You have animals, plants, fungi, bacteria, and there's one other kingdom. I can't think of what it is. There's 5 kingdoms. It depends on which guide you look at. They still have, scientists are still playing with classification. They play with classification all the time. They're always taking out or adding kingdoms, phylums, and they all go down. Plants are very unusual in that they do plants divisions instead of phylums. Subdivisions, class, there's a subclass, there's an order, there's a suborder, there's a family, there's genus, species, and variety, and now they've added a new thing because we're playing with plants. All right. This one I was just reading the other night. Now they have added tribes and subtribes, which goes between families and genus. And then they have species, and then they have variety. Now they have form and cultivated. because we have been breeding plants and breeding different diversities of plants and now with cultivators, we're doing genetic
Plants.
change of plants. So now we have cultivators also, so it gets really complicated. And we don't have to know all that. If you want to know all that, you're welcome to look it up on the internet. There's all kinds of stuff on classification of plants in there. And so, but we're gonna start with trying to get things kind of set up. So, we started with plants. Let's change to our next one. There we go. Okay, so we have plants. Then we divide them into vascular and non-vascular plants. You kind of need to have both of these sheets out at the same time. You may just want to rip this one off the top because I'm going to refer it back to it all the time. You may just want to rip it off. Vascular and non-vascular plants. Vascular plants are basically most of the plants that we always think of. That's going to be the trees, the bushes, the forbs, the grasses, even ferns are all vascular plants. And we'll explain a little bit more what vascular plants, how vascular plants are different than non-vascular plants. Now, basically, if you look at that sheet, let me pull that out. So I'm moving. What's the next one on here? Vascular plants have designated cells that do specific functions. So they end up having systems. Those cells make systems. And they transport food and water throughout the plant. And those are the cambium layer with the xylem and the phloem. And xylem, which is a great word to know for Scrabble. Xylem helps water move throughout the plant, and mainly from the roots through the tissue. And phloem then takes the food around the plant. So those two specialize, and they're in what we call the cambium layer. In a tree, if you took my class, I talked about the bark, and underneath is the cambium layer. The xylem and phloem layers are in that cambium layer. That layer is the live part of the tree. That's what grows the woody center, which they call the hardwood here, or in some places in plants that are woody, it's called the pith, is there to structurally hold up the plant. But the live part is that layer right underneath the outer tissue. So that's what a vascular plant is. A non-vascular plant doesn't have any of those systems. It has nothing that we think of as a plant. It doesn't have roots. It doesn't have leaves. It doesn't have flowers. So it doesn't have any of those things. Its tissue transports food through their cell walls, basically. And then it just transports from one cell to the other. It just moves through the plant. It doesn't have specialized systems that do special functions. So these plants pretty well don't grow upright. They have no formal shape except for whatever they're on or in. If they're in water, like algae, they kind of move around and, and flow with the water. If they're a lichen, they're stuck to the moss or take the shape of the fungus that they're on, which lichen is getting really complicated because it's half fungus and half plant. So lichen is kind of a weird little thing. And then moss basically takes the shape of whatever it's growing on. It does sometimes make reach for sunlight, but
You know, I don't know anything about lichens and moss, but I've never seen algae in the kingdom of plant. It's usually found in Protista. it's kind of one of my pet peeves. Psychology was one of the big things I did at undergraduate school, and
Yeah.
algae is not a plant. It is a protista. It's just different, but, you know.
Yeah, and I think that, I think
99%
they're,
of the world thinks it's a
as I
plant.
said, as they classify things, they move them around all the time, and different people have different views, and it's really hard to decide which one's which. So, yeah, algae, certain algae, they've even pulled algae out and said, is it blue-green algae is a protista, and other algae are plants, and so they've even split up the algae family. So, I don't
It's not a big
know
deal. It's not a
where
big
they
deal.
are,
But it's usually
but just
not
to
a
know
protista.
the difference between vascular and non-vascular plants, and we aren't gonna study non-vascular plants because for the most part, other than people ask you what's growing off the trees, and you tell it it's a lichen, people don't care. The general public doesn't care, so we aren't gonna talk too
So
much
is
about it.
lichen half algae and half?
Yeah, if you go to the second page,
That's what brought this
it
up.
has a little thing on non-vascular plants, and it tells my story that I always tell. Lichen, Alice algae and Freddie fungus took a lichen to each other and decided to live together. Alice makes the food. She has photosynthesis through chlorophyll. And Freddie builds the house. He builds the structure in which they stay in. So the shape of algae is according to the fungus that's in. And I mean, the shape of lichen is according to the fungus that's growing, and algae is growing with the fungus in a mutualism system, so that they grow together. Mutualistic system, so they're both helping each other, and neither one can survive without the other. Well, that's basically what a lichen is. So that's about all we're going to say about non-vascular plants right now, because, as I said, most people that you deal with in the public aren't going to ask you much about it, and they aren't going to be interested. Once in a while, a teacher will say, "Can you do something on non-vascular plants?" And we can go out and look at some algae and some mosses. That's what we do. That's what she wants. So let's go back to, oops, I'm gonna go back. Oh. There we go. So now we're going to go to vascular plants. So in vascular plants, you have non-seed plants and seed plants. Basically, non-seed plants are called ferns. And anybody know what ferns have instead of seeds?
Spores.
Spores. There are only 2 to 3 varieties of ferns that I've found in the whole park, up in this area. Now, if you go over to the coast, you're going to find a lot more varieties in the rainforest. Washington and Oregon, you're going to find a lot. But here we have 2 usually, and I think I found a 3rd last year that I hadn't seen before. So 3 varieties of ferns. I do have a book on ferns, and if you want to key them out, you're welcome to do that. So today we're going to talk about seed plants. So we already talked about conifers and gymnosperms when we did trees, so we aren't going to talk about that anymore. But basically, conifers are trees that have, are plants that have cones. And most of those are evergreens, but not all. Anybody think of one that's not an evergreen? Yeah, western larch, yeah.
What's the difference between spores and seeds?
Spores are pretty microscopic. They have a spore casing and they release this little thing into the wind. It doesn't take fertilization by something else.
Oh,
You don't have a male and a female.